Yes, please. Yeah, the window. Yo. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to these sessions that we are doing, and every morning. And this morning, I've got a special guest. As always, all of them are special in their different ways. And I'm chatting to SculpturedMusic producer, and this is someone who's been in the music industry and producing since he was 16. And since the beginning, he's done 3 albums, Brighter Days, Breathe Again, and the latest, Tell the Groove, which is a super album, I must say. Thank you so much, brah, for doing this, and welcome. How's it?
No, thank you for having me, LSG. Really a pleasure.
As well, bro. I'm really inspired by your journey, you know, like how you've kept on like 3 albums, and you're still fairly young, you know, like there's still a lot more music I'm assuming to come from you. So if I could get back, what I've heard is that your dad used to play you a lot of disco records and Frankie Knuckles music and that kind of music. How has that music, would you say that music has shaped especially the latest album, Tell the Grooves?
Yeah, I mean that those kind of sound like from like old time, when I remember my dad in a Cressida, playing "We Gonna Celebrate,"
Yeah, yeah,
so those kind of music for me, it shaped actually everything. Because what I've noticed as a music, the music it's a circle, it goes around and around.
yeah,
Um, so for me to fuse those kind of elements and the way, actually I liked the way they chopped the vocals, like the repetitive vocals, the way they chopped it. That's what I actually experimented more on this album, when it comes to like vocal chopping and stuff like that, other than just featuring a vocalist and, it's a straight up vocal.
yeah,
So when it comes to that journey, it really helped a lot. For
yeah,
me, a reference it's very important because you need to know where you come from.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, in order for you to know where you're going, and it helps in exploring as well. If
Yeah,
you know more about old music, the more you're gonna explore.
I hear you. I hear you perfectly, bro. But the this album tell the groups your sound was not always like this. You were doing kind of recording vocals and doing a lot more soulful style, especially in your first two albums.
Yeah.
When you look at those first two albums, are you was it is it a progression or were you are you always criticizing, or did this album just come about as you wanted to progress from this you and to the next you being what you did on Tell the Grooves?
Uh, I mean, the first two albums, as you mentioned, they're very soulful. A bit of like I was soft,
Yeah,
if I can put it that way. So as I sit every time in studio, I listen to my own work first and say, okay, what can I do differently?
mm,
Because I didn't want to sit here and reproduce my last two albums again.
I hear you.
I mean, yeah. So I wanted to try something new, and even that something new for me, it was not planned. Uh, the reason why I explore so much is because I'm a DJ first, so I collect music on a daily basis,
Mm,
and I collect different styles of music, and even those styles, like, they influenced me a lot in terms of like this album. So I saw that, okay, how can I fuse my two albums with a bit of soul and go into the more dance floor, deeper kind of vibe,
mm.
Um, I mean, on Tell the Grooves, that's what I came up. I came about the sound.
And
So
you
even
sorry.
for me, it's not planning. Like even now, like I'm sitting, I'm listening to Tell the Grooves to see where I can take that sound.
Mm,
So, meaning as a producer, you dictate where you want to go, not the other way around. So the people can't, they don't dictate you, you dictate
mm,
where your sound is going. If I sat on those two albums and produce my third album exactly as it is, I think people are going to be okay. We know you can do that style. What
yeah,
else can you do?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Show us more. So that's what I did. So without telling me, without the listeners telling me to do more, I actually,
yeah.
said and said, okay, fine, let me just do more and see where it can go.
Sure, sure.
It was a 50-50 chance.
Sure. Hey man, like, and you did a really great job, I must say, because um, that album was such a dance floor album. You know, when you listen to it, and I mean the starting from the first single, if I may call it that, "Set to Think," because that song,
Yeah,
it really it blew up, and it was everywhere, bruh. And to
yeah,
also follow that up with an album that was played in by DJs in the dance floor for such a long time last year. I think it's one of
yeah.
the big, and I'm really proud of you for that, man. It's quite
I know,
inspirational.
thank you.
Um, and then I wanted to ask you, so with regards to your first two albums, when before you did Tell the Grooves, did you feel any were you at all unhappy about the albums themselves or the reception for the album? Was that any motivation for you to create a dance floor album instead of like a listening album, or was it just
Yeah.
a change?
No, for me, it's about growing as a producer.
Yeah,
I believe if you can do, I know I can do like soulful,
yeah,
music, like deep soulful and stuff like that. But I sat one day and thought, okay, fine, what can I do? I mean, those two albums for me, they shaped Tell the Grooves. I don't think without those two albums, I would have managed to produce Tell the Grooves.
I hear you.
So for me, yeah, for me, it's a journey where the one like you can't choose your children.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so it's more like, okay, this one inspired this one, and then that one inspired that one.
I
Because
hear
if you
you.
listen to the last soulful album I made, which is Breathe Again, if you listen to it carefully, you will pick up that I was transitioning. You can tell that, okay, this guy is moving somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah,
In terms of sound. I mean, I think the last three songs on the album, I was actually saying, okay, the next album,
yeah,
that's me exploring the sounds. Because I have started already exploring on Breathe Again, but I didn't go into details.
I hear you.
I just touched base and say, you know what, let me just give them one more album with like soulful and stuff like that, and Tell the Grooves. That's where I explored more. Even that, it was a catch-22 because you find the guys who've been following me like from day one. They like the old me. They
Mm.
like the old sound.
Mm.
So I'm thinking, okay, how can I keep those people and yet gain more?
More people. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So that's where like the Tell the Grooves came about, because even the sound and Tell the Grooves for me, it's kind of different from what everything else is happening in South Africa in terms of like deep house.
mm.
I don't think I'm I don't think I'm that deep. I'm sitting there in the middle between soulful and deep house.
I hear you.
So yeah, you can't really say, okay, this guy is deep house or this guy is soulful. I'm sitting there in the middle. Where else, when you listen to other guys, you can just say, okay, this is deep house.
Yeah, yeah.
With me, I think you can't box me like that when it comes to this album.
That's so dope, man. And I want to know about because my main reason for doing these chats is really about sharing experiences with people, our own experiences that you've come up,
Yeah.
we have been through, and I mean everybody goes through different experiences, but also it's mainly to inspire other people because to show firstly that everybody who is successful in something that they do, and we all kind of go through similar stuff in different ways, so like struggles. And was there any point in your career where you thought you were struggling to get through to people, or you were struggling with growth as you were going?
Yeah. I won't lie, the struggle is real, bro. I remember with my first album, I think, even though it's not really my first album, because I released something else with House Africa, it was a pack. But this one was the first attempt on my own. So with that, I mean, you think, okay, fine, you've got people. I mean, you see people talking about your songs and think, okay, at least I've got a fair amount of people. Releasing that album for me, it was, after that, I think I thought it's going to take me somewhere else, where it actually didn't. It made me stand where I was. It didn't move me to the next level that I wanted, where I was, as you mentioned, struggling to reach the right people. I mean, up to today, there's people who are only discovering the song I did with Zano like now, which was released 2014. I struggled with that. Gigs didn't come.
But how did you deal with it? how did you deal with? How did you handle it? Like when gigs are not coming and you are not getting through to the right people, but you kind of still keep on going. What really changed, or was it like steps that changed along the way, or did anything change?
For me, like I don't really dwell on negativity for too long, you know. Okay, I will sit and analyze myself and check. Okay, this project, okay, fine. It didn't take me where I wanted to, the album to take me. So what I'll do, I just sit. Even like I remember, I think I took about 2 years to come up with the next project. You know. Because during that time I was just analyzing everything and checking what's happening. The DJing, obviously, those little gigs that I used to get, they helped me a lot in terms of getting my mind off production a bit.
Yeah.
So I would just continue DJing, work on the song here and there, but I wouldn't fully go in because the impact of the first album really affected me. But giving up, it was not an option for me because if you love something, it's there, you know. You if you love something, there's not giving up, and if you love something, it's something that you'll continue doing regardless if you get if you become the talk of the town or not.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure.
If you love it, you will sit here and do music, you know.
I hear you.
So that's what I told myself. Okay, I love this thing. For me, it's not. I'm not in this thing to become Michael Jackson. You know, it's me loving it, and from the love of vinyl, where it grew more and into production, I wanted to continue and motivate myself and push on. So giving up for me was not an option, actually. You know?
That's so powerful, man, because it's so there's enough things that will cause an artist to give up, in the industry. Whether maybe some artists have been working for over 10 years without seeing any kind of happiness, with regards to what they receive with their music. And I'm very inspired that, especially with your journey, if you look at, even with, if we were to measure our own successes by how people receive our music, the way people receive Tell the Grooves, compared to how they received the two albums, was very different. And I think it's also a point to make that we should trust the process, because the process isn't really about doing something and expecting that people will like it immediately or people will connect with it immediately. It's really just about doing it. And if there is no connection with people, or maybe it's too early, maybe it could be many reasons, but trusting the process, for me, I think that's the most important thing, bruh, because that's where we get people who given up and people who didn't give up, at a certain point.
Yeah.
So I think it's powerful. But yeah, sorry, you were saying something?
Yeah, and I was just saying, I mean, as a producer, obviously it's a very hard thing to do, because you get into studio, you don't really know,
Yes.
What you're about to do, or if people will connect. But if you, as a producer, feel it and feel strongly about it, eventually, people will connect in the future.
Definitely. I want to know about your this remix that Chima did of Speak Lord. Man, it's a bang. I mean, you released the deluxe project again. I was like, oh, this guy is killing us now. He killed us last year. Now he's killing us again with the deluxe album. But that was really, really powerful. I really think that some people are saying this is the best song of the year already, and this is so early in the year. But it's such a dope song. But it's not the first collaboration that you and Chima worked on. You were in another song that you guys did together. How did that collab come about? Were you guys in studio together, or how did it start?
I mean, the collab actually came about very silly. Eh? People on social media,
Yeah.
Like, we can't wait for SculpturedMusic and China collab,
Yeah.
And they kept on going from last year. So we would see the comment and say, okay, no, we will get into studio, but due to time, him being busy and me being busy, like we haven't. But we send each other parts,
Yeah.
That's how the Back to Basic track came about. We were sending each other parts, and then it came about. And then obviously the Speak Lord, he actually did it last year December. It was somewhere there where I said, Chima, I'm planning to release a deluxe. Can you please hook up a remix? You already have Speak Lord because he mixed it, the original. So I'm like, okay, can you please do the remix? You already have the parts. For me, like at the back of my head, when I released Tell the Groups, like during December, I knew I wanted to release a deluxe, early this year, because I didn't want to even release the remixes. I wanted to include some of my unreleased stuff. But I thought, you know what? Let me just do some collaboration with the gents,
Yeah.
Let me just hold on to my unreleased. It will come out later. Let me just release the remixes. And I didn't want to do the traditional way where I release Speak Lord remixes as an EP or, like EPs.
Yes.
So what? Oh, man. Someone is calling me, sorry.
Okay, no worries. But we can still hear you.
Let me just drop them.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so the plan was to take all the remixes, put them as one package. And when Chima sent me the Speak Lord, I was blown away. Like, I told him, this is sick, bruh.
Yeah.
And it was very hard for me not to play it during December,
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, and I remember I played it once in Peter Maritzburg. Hey man, my wife nearly killed me for that because it was not the time yet,
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean the remix, like he did like some fire job there.
No, he did an amazing job. He really did. I'm a super fan of the remix too. I also wanted to ask you, because I know you've got a full time job besides being a DJ and producer, but I want to ask you, does it help you? Does it make you much more relaxed towards how you create your art? I'm saying having a full time job, or are there other times where it works against you with regards to having time for studio and stuff like that? How is it having a full time job while you are still pursuing your music career as well?
I mean, for me, like from the start, I knew I wanted to do broadcasting and music. For music, I had a chance to go full time music, study music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I thought myself, okay, fine. I think the music part I'll just learn on my own. Let me just go into broadcasting because I also love radio.
Yeah.
So production, producing, for me, it's all in the same circle because it's all creatives. So it's not like now I'm sitting in an office doing accounting and then come back to work.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the same thing, and my job is very flexible in terms of me being able to still do my music and I still do radio, even though sometimes you get a gig on a Sunday and then on Monday you need to go to work. So
yeah.
Sometimes you play and then in and out, Baba.
Yeah.
You come back.
Yeah. I guess it's the price. It's the price you have to pay.
Yeah, because you love both. I mean, you can't choose between the two. Because for me, radio, I also love radio like so much.
Yeah.
And it keeps me going as well. And then going forward, it helps me as well to relax and produce what I feel more.
I hear you.
Than being under pressure and want to produce like a hit where now you're gonna get more money and stuff like that. So it helps to ease the load a bit, so I can just relax and be me, actually,
I hear you.
Because, I don't think without radio, producing those 2 albums would have gotten me this far, you know. I would have said, okay, fine, you know, like someone at the backside, like, my guy, come on, we are starving here, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going, you can see, you know, you've got bills to pay, you know. So that kind of, so that kind of thing, it really helped me a lot, having that radio knowledge and radio production and still being able to pursue music.
Man, I think that's so powerful as well in its own way, because there's humility in that, né? And maybe you, for you, you managed to get into broadcasting, and now these things kind of work together. They're not two worlds too far apart. But I think it takes humility for somebody to have a job and still saying, I've got this dream that I'm gonna pursue one way or another, you know. But at least this job is helping you to be paying for your bills and keeping you sane, and then your production space and headspace is a much clearer one. You're not too stressed out about things that you could potentially be stressed out about, you know, because you can imagine how tough it can be for somebody who's only doing music and is trying to get through into things. If things don't work with music, it becomes very difficult. But there are some people who do that and who do that very well, you know, and I admire both sides. I think for me, it's really about what works for you as an individual, you know. There's no right or wrong. Some people really can only survive doing music and they can make it work. You know what I mean? And I think it's a balance.
Yeah, but I also think even them, it's not only music. They've got other businesses on the side. They've got we're doing the same thing, you know. It's just with us, we are working. They've got business, you know.
Yeah.
So I think along those lines, we kind of similar, because I don't think they also, you know, have the DJing and music only. If you check every successful DJ in South Africa, they've got other means of income coming in other than just DJ. So the DJ obviously is the finance, you know, and the music is the financer to the other stuff.
That is so true.
That's what I think.
That is true. Actually, you are right, because also in addition, sometimes you find that for example, when an artist becomes a huge artist and they've really built up a name, you know. I mean, I'll mention Black Coffee because he's the biggest artist right now, you know, with regards to our house music. But he will have interest in Yoko app and buy that and be part of that business. And also, it's a business for him. It's a side business. You know what I mean? So more and more, it is evident that people are doing more than just one thing. Even if maybe music was the driving force, but people end up having a business here, having a business there, and you are right. We are all doing the same thing, whether you're working or it's a side hustle. I never thought of it like that. Anyway,
that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you just one more question. When I believe that all of the struggles, like there's somebody who is struggling with something that you have struggled with before, and you managed to get through that thing. If you could advise somebody out there, whether young or old, but they are struggling with a struggle that you might have had and also overcame, how would you advise those people?
I mean, when it comes to music, I think we all have our own struggles. We're all working similar, you know, in terms of we're not like that similar in terms of our journey, you know. The struggle, it's very much alive when it comes to our music industry and how, you know, like the youngsters come up and stuff like that. They're still gonna struggle, and they need to remember this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, you know. You might be the talk of the town today, but tomorrow you're not, you know. So you're only as good as your last song. That's what I tell myself every time when I see the studio, you know. Like, what can I do to raise the bar? Not to sound similar, but, you know, to do something else that's different, but still rock on. So they need to be, like, you need to be very patient when it comes to your craft as well. And rushing, it will only lead you to. I mean, we had so many guys who were very talented, but they lack discipline, they know more and stuff like that. So discipline and respect to the guys who've been doing it, for me, it's very important, and you gotta be humble. Because this is not, as I've said, it's not a marathon. Like, if you want to sustain your career in music and not become a has-been, you need to be willing to learn, willing to listen, and then most importantly, willing to adapt and explore as you go, Because even though our music industry, like in terms of like production, it's fairly, we're going in circles, but those circles come with the creativity. They come with, you taking what you've heard before and making your own, Because I like to think that there's nothing new under the sun, The music that we are doing has been done before,
Yeah.
So we are just interpreting the music our own way. How you feel it. You might hate this kind of group from Rivera in 1992, and then you took it and then you make it, your own and stuff like that.
And he does the same with other artists as well.
Yeah. So that's why I say, like, you need to be humble about it, because there's nothing new that you are creating.
Yeah.
It's your style that people are drawn to. That people love. So you need to be humble about it and be willing to learn, as I've said. Like, keep pushing and knowing your market. It's very important. And the other thing is using your social media, because we live in a social, like, digital world now, And the more you talk to people who support your music, the more they feel closer to you. The more they want to support you, So that thing of ignoring your fans, it's played out. It's old stuff now. You need to connect. If someone is asking you a question, you need to answer them.
Sure.
Talk to them.
Sure.
So for me, that's what I've learned.
Sure.
During all these years, actually.
Sure, that's so dope, bro. Just one last question I wanted to ask you. I know you're working. You said you've been working on some music in studio. Are you planning on releasing any new music this year? Are you chilling a bit? Are you dropping an album? What are you working on?
Yes, I am working on a couple of songs and remixes, and I've got a couple of collabos, international collabos that are coming up. So it's a surprise. I won't mention it. I won't mention it. You will just see.
Dope.
But I won't release now. During this lockdown, I won't release anything now. People are still enjoying my Tell the Girls album, Deluxe and stuff. So I want to give that a bit of a chance, So, because remember, we have early adopters, which is the house heads, who buy the music this week, next week they're tired of it, and then after that come the next bench, who are music lovers. Because, music lovers, they take time to discover music. Others take time. So you need to give those bunch as well the chance to enjoy your music and discover your music, like not rushing every time releasing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. If you see now, I'm constantly pushing the Tell the Girls, while in the background I'm working on new music,
Sure.
And I think I'm gonna release after. I'll deal with EPs. I'm not gonna release an album.
Yeah.
So I'll just release in like EPs, like late this year. I'll see, but definitely there's a lot for me. I think, as you've mentioned, Tell the Groups has gotten the most response out of the two albums and stuff like that. So to me, it feels like the beginning. It feels like I've just started. Like it's like I've just discovered myself.
Does it put any amount of pressure on you, this kind of success, or on this album?
Not really, because remember, I think it started with my EP, Sing My Blues. It started there, where I didn't know what I was doing, I was exploring. This sound to me was new, and even the people didn't expect it, So when it came to you said to think same thing, they didn't expect it. It boils down to me again saying, as a producer, you dictate where you want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, all the music on Tell the Grooves, I don't think people expected me to go that route. They were surprised, like, wow,
Yeah.
Then they know, okay, now they trust me enough to surprise them.
Yeah.
So now I'm not gonna come out after Tell the Grooves now trying to do another set to think, trying to do another Tell the Grooves. No, it's about me dictating where I think you guys are going. I'm going, and I want you to come with me. This is where I'm going. Like I'm on the driver's seat.
Yeah.
So So you need to trust me where I'm going. That I'm gonna take you there. So for me, it doesn't really. I'm not under pressure in any way. Because where I am now, there was no one who was dictating it. If maybe I was doing something that everybody was doing, then I'm gonna be under pressure, like, to how do I stand out? How do I come up with new ways of doing stuff? But because I'm dictating my journey, I'm dictating my kind of way, I can come up after Tell the Grooves and release a lounge album. I mean, people say like, okay, fine, we see where you're going. They're not gonna be judgmental about it because, as you, as a producer, have said, you dictate where you want to go. So I'm really not under pressure. I'm actually excited to explore more because I can see people love to hear, what they haven't heard before. So that's what inspired me a lot. It inspires me to explore, sit in the studio and come up with different ways of feeding the music to the people.
Sure. Nah, man, thank you so much. I really admire this, and looking forward to those new releases. And while we still enjoy the deluxe version of Tell the Grooves, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for having this chat with me, and I hope that it really does inspire somebody out there, to do more or to work a bit better on their own career, to have a different objective and a different vision of the way they look at their own careers, But thank you so much, Bra, for doing this.
No, thank you for having me. And for me, it's very important to share one's journey to the people so they know, like, everything is not all rosy, Because I mean, on social media, it seems like everybody's doing okay, behind it, we are actually not. There's a lot of hardship that you go through. You can release like a dope album and you think you're gonna sell and you don't sell as much, So with piracy, it really takes the bread out of our mouth as well. But we learn to live with it, because there's nothing you can do when it comes to piracy,
Sure.
So those kind of things, they really like hurt the industry. But as a person, you keep on going and you keep on pushing until something happens. Because if you love something, like for me, it's not about anyone else. It's about you.
Sure.
It's about the way you want to see yourself in the next 10 years.
Sure.
Because when it comes to music, as I've said before, the cake is big enough for all of us. We just have to come together and push. And the only way, obviously, with this lockdown, the only way we make a living as a DJs and producers are gigs. When it comes to like sales and stuff like that, you don't really make much. I mean, it's an open secret. Like, they don't really make much, and with us, we struggle to get brands. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into one being down and out. But yeah, we keep on going.
Sure, bro. No, we definitely do keep on going. But yeah, thank you so much. I hope that everybody out there or someone out there, gotten the info and the knowledge and the experience, and I hope that somebody uses it for their own careers. Thank you so much for checking this out. Tomorrow I'll be chatting to Vinny Da Vinci and talking about the longevity of DJ in the industry. Peace out. Hola, Willie.
Yeah.
Nah, I think we are out. It's gonna be out. Okay.
You think?
Yeah, ne.
You disconnected.
Yeah, okay, stop it.
Oh.
Stop it, bro. Hey, thanks so much for sharing, Fitu. Like, yeah, this is great. This is great.
No, thanks for having me. Eh? When I want to make music, only want to.
Hey, Fitu, I'm working on music, but definitely this year I'm gonna release something. Then I had some issues in the past 2 years. I couldn't really work much, but sharp, I'm gonna be working on new. Well, I'm